Good morning, this is Dwayne. Today I'd like to talk about intervals and the role they play in music and the different types of intervals. An interval, as you know, is the distance between any two notes. So if I start on middle C and go up to the next note, that's called a second. But there's different kinds of seconds. There's a major second and a minor second. And so I want to spend a little time talking about the difference between those kinds of intervals, okay? This is called a major second because it's in, because it's in the major scale. Here's the C major scale. And so a major second is a whole step, one whole step above the root, or above the note below it, okay? One whole step, not a half step. If it's a half step, that's a minor second, okay? Now, what would that be? Is the third note of the major scale, so that would be, a major third, wouldn't it? And if I lowered this to that, that would be a minor third, okay? Let's take it that far. Major second, major third, minor third. Now the next interval, you'd think that would be a major fourth, but it's not called that in music theory. It's called a perfect fourth. And the reason it's called a perfect fourth is because those two notes have a perfect relationship. What do I mean by that? Well, F is in the scale of C, but C is also in the scale of F, isn't it? That's only true of two intervals, the fourth and the fifth. It's not true of a second, because while D is in the scale of C, C is not in the scale of D. Here's a D major scale. See, that's the seventh degree of the major scale in D. So they don't have a perfect relationship, therefore they're called major. Okay, major second, minor second, major third, minor third, perfect fourth. Why? Because they have a perfect relationship, those two notes, okay? Now, if I go up another step, that's called an augmented fourth. Augmented fourth. I'm augmenting. Augment means to widen, so I'm widening the interval by half a step. Augmented fourth. This is a perfect fifth, and again, it's a perfect fifth because C and G have a perfect relationship. G's in the scale of C, isn't it? And C's in the scale of G. Okay, so they have, like the fourth, a fifth has a perfect relationship. Now, if I lower the G a half step, that's called not a minor fifth, but a diminished fifth. Diminished fifth. So you can see that an augmented fourth and a diminished fifth are the same sound. But it depends how they're written on paper. If on a sheet of music that says C and F sharp, then that's an augmented fourth. If on the other hand it says C and G flat, then that's a diminished fifth. Okay, you got that? This can be a little confusing at first, but you'll catch on. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Major second, minor second, major third, minor third, perfect fourth, augmented fourth, perfect fifth, diminished fifth. Okay, now let's go ahead. That's a perfect fifth, as you know. So what would this be? Right, that's an augmented fifth. You're widening the interval, you're widening the perfect interval a half step. So that's an augmented fifth. This is a sixth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because it's the sixth note of the C scale. If I lower that top note, it's a minor sixth, isn't it? But wait a minute, we just said that that note was an augmented fifth. How can it be a minor sixth? Because they're enharmonic, aren't they? In other words, it depends how that's written. They sound the same, but if it's written as a G sharp above C, that's an augmented fifth. If it's written as A flat, that's a minor a minor sixth, okay? Now if I go up another half step, that's called a minor seventh. Now this gets confusing because there's a chord, there's a chord called a minor seventh. But that has nothing to do with the chord. That's just interval between C and B flat is a minor seventh. Excuse me just a minute. And there's C and B natural. That's a major seventh. So we have a minor seventh and a major seventh. And then if I go up another half step, that's a perfect eighth, isn't it? We know it's perfect because they're in each other's scale. Is C in the scale of C? Yeah. Is C in the scale of C? Yeah. Okay. So there's three kinds of perfect intervals. There's a fourth, a fifth, and an octave. There's major intervals, major seconds, major third, major sixth, major seventh, and there's minor intervals, minor third, minor sixth, minor seventh. There's diminished intervals. There's a diminished fifth. I could have a diminished fourth. It's not used very much because a diminished fourth is the same thing as a major third, but if it was written that way, if that was written as C and F flat, then that would be a diminished fourth. Okay, well, just a little, excuse me, sorry about my voice, it just keeps catching. That's it for today, just a little music theory about intervals. And of course, we use intervals. You can't play any kind of music without dealing with intervals like that, right? There's a major seventh. There's a minor seventh, because that's the seventh note of that scale, and so on. Okay, so you ought to be aware of those things because they help you out over time. So thanks for being with me, and if you're not already signed up for our free piano tips, be sure and do that. Come on over to playpiano.com and sign up. Thanks. Bye-bye for now.